Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another exciting episode of Cast Dice. This is Classic Miniatures, a tale of two gamers. We are two classic war gamers, guys who've been playing this game or different tabletop games for way too long. And we are here to talk about our love of old school models, old school games, and we're in the process of painting retro Rogue Trader era armies with some secondhand stuff thrown in. For various editions of Warhammer 40,000. Now, we have been talking a lot about Warhammer 40k second edition. However, I might be sneaking some third edition in. We'll see how that goes. But of course, I can't go any further without my brother in arms, the man with the gorgeous painted orcs, who may have been acknowledged for that, but that's spoilers for later in the episode. John, welcome to the show. How you doing, brother?
Hi, Brad. I'm doing well. Good to be here.
Now, you have recently been playing Warhammer 40,000 second edition. There was a big event down here in Melbourne. Where were you and what were you doing?
Yeah, so it was a small event in a big event. I participated in the Only War 40k second edition event in Melbourne. That was part of the Arcfest. I don't know, what do they call it? Convention, wargaming convention, I think. So yeah, absolutely huge event. But you know, a very small part of that. There was a few of us playing second edition 40k, which I don't know when the last second edition event ran in Melbourne, but I am willing to bet it was quite some time ago.
It was a while ago, I'm sure. And Arc is a Melbourne institution. For those who are not familiar, it was at one point, and it might still be, the largest Warhammer 40,000 tournament in the Southern Hemisphere. I used to play when I first moved to Melbourne. I played, I believe, in 2006. 2007 and 2008. And it was massive back then. But it has, of course, shifted, moved away from the Arcanicon convention that it was originally a part of, and it has turned into Arcfest, which is a separate event completely, which uses the 40K component of that old event and has moved it forward with a different tournament organizer team. And it has gone off-site, and it has been in a number of venues, but for the last couple of years, it has been held in a convention space at a race course. Is that right?
Yeah, stand-down race course, yeah.
Nice. This was, as you say, a big event. Tons of games, painting seminars, a giant painting competition, hundreds and hundreds of people. I don't actually know the exact, I mean, obviously thousands. But I know that you were part of a smaller game component of this much larger event. And right next to you guys were our friends Lee and Mark and Pedro, who were playing Silver Bayonet, which is another amazing game. But you were playing Warhammer 40,000 second edition. How many players ended up playing in the event in the end? Because I know there were a lot more, and unfortunately, I was one of them, and I had to drop because I was on school camp the week before, and it got grim.
Yeah, Look, so it was only 6 of us in the end playing the game. So just a little group amongst the huge mass of God, what's the current edition of 40K? That's 10th,
but it's about to be 11th.
That's right. So that's obviously the 10th ed tables there, as you can see from the L-shaped ruins. And we're off to the side somewhere playing second ed. So yeah, it was 6 of us, 5 games across 2 days, Saturday and Sunday. So 3 on the first, 2 on the second. 1,500 points. Really sort of open. Like there wasn't very many restrictions on what you could bring. It was framed as a very friendly event. So just I'm sure that Dan, the organizer, if someone had submitted something that was a bit on the cheesy side, would have said something. But like there was very few restrictions on what you could bring. And it was part of it was also part of the global bracket chain
Mm,
edition ongoing campaign, which if folks aren't aware of this and they're interested in second edition, you absolutely should be. It's organised by the Sustained Fire crew up in Brisbane, and it's a campaign, worldwide campaign of people submitting their victory points from games a second that they play, and it's all being tallied together and battle reports being written up and so forth. We submitted one, Brad, you and I.
we did.
We did, yeah. And so this event was also rolled into that as well. Yeah. Oh, so that's us down in the corner there. You can see the hyper green tables.
Yeah, I was gonna say there's some Goblin Green somewhere in there.
This,
But one of the aspects of that campaign is that it has some of its own missions and unique scenarios. Were any of those used at this event?
no, so we did use standard scenarios, although they were predetermined. So I'll talk about that a little bit later when we talk about the games, how those scenarios matchups went. But so Dan had planned out how the scenarios matched up. The biggest impact that the involvement of Bracket Chain had on the event was that. So Bracket Chain, in a narrative sense, is the Imperium and allies versus the enemies of the Imperium, right? So all the games are supposed to be those two fighting, and so that meant at the event we had Imperium armies facing off against enemies of the Imperium, right? So your Space Marines and Imperial Guard, and if there had been Eldar, would have been Eldar and squats or what have you, facing off against Orcs, Chaos, if there'd been Tyranids, that sort of thing, which did impact how the event ran a little bit.
Right on. What were some of your takeaways from this? Because this was the first organized second ed event I think you probably played in I don't know how many decades.
Yeah. So look, it's also the biggest event I've been to in many, many decades. So the last giant event like this I went to was when second edition was the current edition. So to give you a sense of when that was. But look, it was a great time. I mean, people who are playing second ed in 2026 are, playing it for the love of the era, the nostalgia, and very sort of chill and laid back. And I mean, there were certainly some challenges, more to do with Arcfest in general than the Only War event, but it did impact us, which was a bit of a shame. So I think there were some issues with the Facebook page leading up to the event that meant that people's posts weren't uploading or displaying, which made everything look like, there was kind of no buzz around the event, unfortunately, which I think ended up, we got less players than maybe we would have otherwise received. And there was also some challenges just with the and look, anyone who went to Arcfest or has heard anything about Arcfest this year was probably aware that there was some timing issues. So our third game on day one was scheduled to finish at 6 p.m. And at 6 p.m. we had security guards coming up to our tables and saying, you need to leave now. And like we were mid-game, we're still rolling dice. And so was everyone in the event hall. It was kind of wild. And there's just this like mad rush to pack everything up, make sure you didn't leave your minis behind, finish up your game, tally your points, get out the door, which was that was a bit of a shame.
Yeah.
Yeah. The other thing I would say is, so I love Bracket Chain. Again, we participated in it. I think we're going to continue to participate in it.
Yes.
The work that the Sustained Fire crew, Will in particular, are doing on that is absolutely phenomenal, and it was great to have their involvement in the event as well. But because of the low numbers, it meant that we did end up having people playing the same opponent more than once.
Mhm.
And it meant that I didn't get to have a chance at stacking up against a couple of the other players.
Yeah.
We actually had perfect numbers to have different opponents every time, but because we were doing the,
The
Imperial
campaign.
versus
Yeah.
enemies thing, we wound up not being able to do that, which I felt was a bit of a shame, mostly just because one of the players had this amazing looking Chaos Marine Slaanesh army
I was
that
gonna say that Slanesh army looked cool.
it's so good, and I just wanted to play. It looked so good, and I really wanted to get on the table with it, and I just didn't get a chance, and it really bummed me out that I didn't.
Yeah.
We were right there, and we could have had a game, and just didn't get the shot. But having said that, really, really fun, really great players. Like just no issues at all with players or I mean, plenty of rule queries because it's second
Yeah.
ed,
It's been a
and
while, right?
well, it's not just as a while, but like even at the time, it's not a clearly written game. Sorry, Rick, but
True.
it is
Yep.
of a different era.
Yeah. Things
Yeah.
didn't have to be laser focused and people weren't rule lawyering it to death. I mean, I played it competitively at the time, and I remember some very interesting rule interaction comment, you know, debates at the table at the grand tournaments in the States, but never in a bad way. So, yeah,
Yeah.
I
I
can
mean,
imagine that a few decades on, people's understanding may not be completely in lockstep.
yeah, and look, it's sort of been house ruled to death. Like there are
Yeah.
certain things that you have to house rule. Like there's no definitive way to do some things. It's just the way it's
Mhm.
written, and you have to make. And look, there's been an amazing effort to compile like an FAQ of all the questions and answers that were ever asked and answered about second edition. That's available on the second edition Facebook website,
Mhm.
and it's fantastic, but also it has contradictory answers within that fact. Sometimes it's answered one way, sometimes it's answered another way, and so you're always playing second. You're always going to have these scenarios where you're like, "Ooh, not 100% sure what the right way to do this is. So how are we going to resolve this amicably? In a way that
Mhm.
everyone's happy with." So, um,
100%.
and look, that was a little bit challenging sometimes, not because of the players. The players were fantastic, but because the venue was so loud with so many games being played that it was
Yeah.
actually hard to have a conversation. Like you're sort of shouting to talk to your opponent and like trying to resolve an issue for an ancient game.
That can be challenging for sure.
Yeah, yeah. But look, on the plus side, like it was like playing a White Dwarf battle report from the 90s. Like this was like an idealized version of second edition because I played second edition in the 90s and it was never this pretty. It was never
Yeah.
this nice.
Yeah. Yeah.
um, but like everyone's bringing these amazing armies and you've got these beautiful tables and it there were moments where it was just like it's it's more real than the or like it's more nostalgic than the real thing. Like
Yeah.
it looks so amazing, and it was so fantastic, and everyone was great. Like really great event. Really looking forward to catching up with the guys again and having more games.
Well, shall we start talking about some of the armies that were there?
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, 6 players, 6 armies, and you know uh also just coincidentally, perhaps, there were 3 on each side of, we had, there's a couple of orc armies. So obviously I brought my orcs,
Mhm.
and we've had couple of test games with them, but this was like, you know, a real chance to give them a run. So, you know, I tell you what, moving 40 Gretchen around under time pressure is certainly something.
Hey,
I feel
you
like
did it. That's a you problem, buddy.
that is a me problem. I authored that myself. I take
Mhm.
full responsibility. So yeah, look, um, this is one of these things. I think we talked about it in a previous recording, but you know, like I did not start painting this to have like a well-considered army. It was very much like, what do I want to paint, and like what, you know, what's playable from the outset. So, you know, we'll start with a war boss and a few orcs and some Gretchen, and you know, like the very basics. And it wasn't until I'd sort of started in that project that all of a sudden this event, Only War, was announced, and I had planned to very slowly paint this army, and then all of a sudden this is announced. I'm like, oh, now I need 1,500 points by
Mhm.
by May, and had to sort of just do what I could to knock together the right amount of points. So it was very much a run what you have
Yeah.
army, which, in all fairness, is kind of how I used to play second edition. Back then, it was because I had the income of a, you know, 15-year-old or what have you. Uh, but yeah, look, it was yeah. I brought my 40 Gretchen, 10 orcs, orc boys, some bikes, some vehicles, 3 dreadnoughts, which I was painting like right up until the night before the the event.
And we will be covering those in a video coming up, but I
We
understand they
will.
still need some banners.
They do still need some banners. I'm not done with the blue one yet, one of the 3. But yeah, they need banners, and then we will discuss them. And I had uh, my heavy weapons, which I ran as knobs as well, to give them the extra ballistic skill. But yeah, look, um, not a super well-tuned army, but it was definitely fun to play, and it looked, I think it looked great on the
It
battlefield.
looks outstanding on the tabletop. Having played some practice games and then, of course, having seen pictures, it is gorgeous. So,
Yeah.
yeah, you've really outdone yourself.
Oh,
Um,
thanks, Brett.
yeah, oof. I look forward to playing it again because spoilers for a future episode. I know that in the last episode, I made it look like I was falling behind with my painting by not painting a couple of tactical Blood Angel squads. I am now like 92% finished an entire Space Marine army for this. So.
Mm. Yeah, so you're soon to be well ahead of me on points, unfortunately.
Yeah, I'm going from 5 tactical Marines to an entire army sans characters. So,
Mhm.
and the characters I was always saving for last to be fun. So I'm looking
Mm.
forward to that. But that's an episode coming down the pike. Let's talk about some of the other armies that were there. Because speaking of Space Marines, there were a few. The first was an Ultramarine player that had a tactical squad, a combat squad, the old Tech Marine Librarian combo with the commander with the Rhino. We had a Dreadnought and a Whirlwind and a Predator Annihilator. So few number of troops, lots of tools though. Beautiful
Mm.
army.
Yeah, so this is Matthew. He came all the way down from Brisbane to play with us, which
Mm.
was absolutely wonderful. So again, he's part of the Sustained Fire crew. And you know, he's been playing second edition regularly, so it was actually really great to have him there, because he could sort of just, you know, he had been playing enough recently to be able to answer questions and to help out where necessary. This army was my absolute nemesis. It wiped the floor with me. Talk about the games more specifically later, but
I'm curious to see how, because you have many times the models.
I do. This is a small army, and mine is a big army.
Yeah.
But yeah, look, Matt. Matthew is a really great guy and a pleasure to play against. You know, wonderful Ultramarines, which I believe are he's had, you know, since second edition was contemporary for the
Oof,
most part. But
love
yeah,
it.
look, I mean, Ultramarines were the poster boys for a reason. Just the blue on the tables just really
Mhm.
pops. Just really, yeah, looks fantastic.
Well, let's jump to the other big Space Marine army there. We have Blood Angels. Now, an outstanding looking Blood Angel army. Uh, Assault combat squad, a tactical combat squad with a plasma gun. We have a combat devastator squad with a couple of heavy bolters, a dreadnought with an assault cannon, tech marine, land speeder, and another predator annihilator, and some scouts with the old librarian.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So no photo can do this army justice. It just doesn't come through on camera. I've seen so many pictures of it now, and it it makes such an impression in person. The red. So this is Gareth's Blood Angels, but like they are so red they look like they're glowing on the tabletop. They are something else. And when I played against Gareth on a bright green table, we had people from all over the place just coming over to you know look at it. It looks amazing. Just again, like no photo can do it justice in person. Just absolutely phenomenal work. I do not know how he got his red so red and his yellow so yellow. It's just a wonderful army.
I mean, I could say the same thing about your army. And I can imagine your army, super bright colors, and his army, super bright colors, really popping and making people come over. So, yeah, man, that would be a treat.
Yeah, like I said, just kind of just that idealized version of second what you remember from the pictures, not from playing necessarily, but like
Yeah.
yeah, what you remembered seeing in White Dwarf. Yeah, just really, really incredible stuff. And you know, again, Gareth, top bloke, had really great games against him.
Nice.
Really enjoyed playing him.
And then
Um,
there were the Mordians, my personal Imperial Guard regiment choice. I have painted a lot of Mordians over the years, and I was convinced I couldn't get a Mordian army painted for this event.
mhm.
But then looking at this army, it looks very small. Uh,
Hmm.
it is a Demolisher, it's a regular Lehman Russ, it's a Chimera. There is a guard squad with a heavy bolter. There is another guard squad with another heavy bolter, actually, now that I'm looking at it. We have heavy weapon squad with mixed weapons, looks like las cannon,
Mhm.
autocannon, rocket launcher,
Mhm.
augurin, and we have a command squad with a psyker that has some special weapons in it as well, to the tune of a
Mhm.
flamer, a melta, and possibly, oh yeah, another melta and a grenade launcher.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, this army, looking at the pictures, I said to myself, should have painted guard. But I'm so
Yeah.
used to thinking like third ed, fourth ed guard,
Mm.
where when I painted my Mordians, when I took my Mordians to Arc in 2006, I think I had almost 100 guys.
Mm.
So for me to look at this, and that's saying something because I was 1,250 points.
Mm.
Um, maybe I didn't have that many, but it was I know I had a blob of 50 guardsmen on the table.
Yeah.
So
And look, you
that
can
was one
definitely
squad.
run, yeah, you can definitely run a lot more foot troops in a guard army in second, but I think the vehicle costs like a demolish is something like 300 points. Like it is a big
Yeah.
chunk of the army. So like each of the tanks are big chunk cost wise. Also, the Ogrins are they're a couple of hundred by themselves, I think,
Mm.
points. So um, yeah, so this is Joel's Mordian army. I believe he said that the foot troops are from when he was a kid, and then the tanks he actually did up for this event. So
Nice.
yeah, so he had the but really nice color scheme with the red jackets and white hats, and looks really nice. Yeah, man, those tanks. I will talk a bit more about tanks and my experience in going up against tanks when we get to the
Yeah, that was
game.
one of my big concerns going to this event too. But let's also talk about the other orc player because there's a wild-looking dreadnought in this.
Yeah, so this is Brendan's orcs. So again, look, I didn't get to spend much time looking at these guys because I never played against them, and I wish I'd had the opportunity. So he's primarily using the Trollet miniatures 3D prints, which I've talked about before. They're absolutely fantastic. But he's got some kit bash stuff in there. So the dread that you've mentioned, I believe that is a ping pong ball that is primarily made from. So the body of the ping pong ball cut open. It's so good. It's a really great kit bash and really sort of old school vibes of just like it is a real kit bash, made from all sorts of stuff. So that looks amazing. And he has a buggy that's made from a little muscle car as well. That looks great. Just some really characterful stuff. So I don't know much else about it because I just didn't get a chance to play it, sadly. I know he did bring a Psyker and I did not. And I'll talk a bit later about my feelings about that. But yeah.
He had a good mix of boys. He had some goblins, as you said. He had some trucks. Sorry, not trucks.
Buggies, yeah.
Buggies. Sorry. Some heavy weapons dudes, but he also had 2 pulse rockets. When I was thinking about running orcs for Arcfest, I was also going to run dual pulsar rockets because I remember them being the bane of my existence at Grand Tournament after Grand Tournament.
Yeah, look, I have strong feelings about pulsar rockets, although I got to say after the results of this event, maybe I should rethink my position on pulsar rockets. I do feel like they're a bit of a feel bad button insofar as they're worth 50 points each, right? And when you fire it once ever, and that's all you get. It's a one done. And there's 2 things that can happen with them. One is they do nothing. As with all orc artillery, they can just not work and not do anything at all. On the flip side, they can have a massive effect, knock over the most of the enemy army, and like completely lock them down for a huge chunk of the game, and especially if you've got a couple of them. And so either it doesn't work and the orc player feels bad about it, or it does work and the other player feels like they've been done unfairly by. And I don't know.
I get it.
But they are potentially very, very effective. Brendan did say that he doesn't use them straight out. He sees how the game's playing out and then makes a decision on whether or not he wants to hit that button and mix things up or not. Which again was kind of the attitude there of like everybody's there to have a good time and have fun and not go too hard to
I always thought of them as more of a deterrent, right? So you have them there and it keeps your opponent from properly bunkering up, and it allows you to then kind of attack their army piecemeal. But I was thinking I wouldn't fire them.
Interesting.
Maybe one, but yeah, it's more of a like, hey, don't put your army next to one another or everyone's going to fall down.
And again, like the way second's written, there's no restriction on the number of. I mean, 50% of your army can be pulsar rockets under the rules as written, right? And you can just like spend the entire game bombarding your opponent, knocking them down, stopping them from doing anything. So anyway, but
let's move on to chaos. The aforementioned Slanesh army that we mentioned earlier. It had my favorite unit, the Noise Marines. It had a big block of Terminators, a Sorcerer Lord, a Lord in Terminator armor, the old Chaos Dreadnought, the Dread Sock. If you put that in a sock and hit someone, that was one way to get somebody's lunch money, as we used to joke. And a unit of Demonettes. I mean, classic, right?
Yeah. Again, this is my biggest disappointment of the event was I didn't get to play against Travis's Slanesh Chaos Marine army. Really just so he's gone with a black and pink paint scheme, and it's just really striking. And one thing I was really impressed is that so the Noise Marines that were released during right at the end of second edition, it was like 96, 97, somewhere around like right at the end of the edition, just before third came out, had this really distinct aesthetic, and they're very busy miniatures.
Oh yes.
Yeah, and part of the difficulty with them is they've got so much little detail all over them that they're often painted in a way that doesn't mesh with the rest of an army. And he did a really good job of actually finding a way to, keep them as sort of complex and detailed as they are, but also match with the scheme of his overall army in a way that just makes them fit in completely. They're really, I love this army. Apparently he painted it in like 6 weeks or something, which yeah, I know. It's very impressive. But yeah, so he's got his unit of Noise Marines, unit of Terminators, veterans. So they were, so he had, I think they were Chaos Space Marine veterans there as well. So, and then the Demonettes. But yeah, teeny tiny little army. But would have loved to see how it played.
Yeah. So good. So good. Well, shall we talk about your games?
Yeah. So 5 games. First one I faced off against Matthew from Sustained Fire. So that was a really great opportunity for me. Obviously, he's played a lot more than I have, so it was really great to be able to get on the table with somebody who has a lot of experience, a lot of recent experience, and I could ask questions of. Matthew was really great in answering stuff. He sort of basically turtled up in one corner largely, and moves. Oh, sorry, I should say, as I mentioned at the start, so the missions were predetermined, and so every Imperial army had Dawn Raid for this one, and every of the destruction armies or the enemy's armies had high ground. So I was playing high ground, he was playing Dawn Raid. Look, it was a good game. It started a trend for me that I found throughout, where a lot of these armies were quite vehicle heavy, or had a lot of their points in vehicles, and I discovered that I simply did not have enough anti-tank weaponry. I actually thought that I brought quite a lot. I had 5 las cannons and a cracked missile launcher and a missile launcher, and thought I was kind of pretty well positioned to deal with vehicles, but I just found I could not make a dent in them. And whilst I could take out the foot troops, it was very, very challenging for me to do anything about the vehicles. So he had some vehicle cards, like a blade of armor and so forth. I think he had a blade of armor.
A blade of armor, I'm assuming, was all over the place.
Yeah, and again, very common in second. So I think he had that on his Dread and on the Predator. He had it on the Predator and the Rhino, I think. So he sort of moved his Rhino up forwards to take the initial fire, and it had the ablative armor, so it lasted quite long. And then that's because of how target selection works in second. You got to shoot at the closest vehicle, so that takes all the fire and helps the stuff behind survive longer.
The old bait and switch Rhino, the old days. I remember those.
Yeah. Look, to his credit, he was pretty daring with the Rhino. Like, he did chuck his commander in it and drive it right up the front, and took that risk. Managed to get him out before things went pear-shaped. But it's something else again that happened that would then be a bit of a trend for me throughout the event was. So I didn't have a psyker, and again, this just came down to I didn't have one painted, so I didn't bring one. And I thought I might get away with it because I figured everyone else would probably only bring one psyker, and that meant that they would only be rolling 1d6 for the psychic phase, which hopefully would sort of cap what they could do. They did it, roll 1d6. Everyone only had one, bar chaos, I think, because the demonettes count as one as well. But essentially, I just got like the psychics were very strong, which is a known thing in second ed, and because I didn't have a psyker to oppose them, it was very hard for me to do anything about that. So I just sort of had to wear whatever happened. So yeah, at some stage he hit one of my dreadnoughts with a machine curse. I think he did that, sort of disabled it so he could kill it, and then hit another one with a machine curse a bit later, and so that was tough to deal with. But
do you feel like even a low level psyker would have been good defense, or would that have you would have still been steamrolled? Do you need to have a big psyker?
Look, so the way it works is, so with nullifiers for psychic powers, I mean, God, it would take me forever. I'm assuming that people watching this probably know how second ed psychics work.
And I know that there's some cards in particular.
It's a card game. Yeah, it's an independent card game that you play during the thing. So
do you feel like having a low level psyker would help?
Yeah, so what I was going to say is that low level probably wouldn't have made a difference, because the way that nullifying psychic power works is that if your psyker is a lower level than theirs, you only nullify their powers on a 5 up, and they nullify yours on a 3 up. So I would have had to have a high level psyker for it to make a difference, for it to be a 4 up or better to nullify. But also, perhaps having psychic powers would have also allowed me to be a bit more dynamic, challenge the vehicles a bit more, challenge the psychers. So yeah, that was the first game, and that ended in a loss for me. It did create the moment of I had a Gretchen next to my war boss. He shot the Gretchen with a multi-melter, which absolutely annihilated my war boss. But the Gretchen just walked out of it unscathed, which was very second edition.
Anything but a 1. Oh, there's the 1.
Yeah, that's right. The Gretchen then went on, I think, to take I reckon it took a heavy bolter shot as well, and walked that off as well. And like, I realized after the fact that I had the Look Out Sir strategy card, and I could have actually saved my war boss by sacrificing the Gretchen. But by that point in time, that Gretchen had been so lucky that I didn't want him to die. And Matthew was like, if you want to roll things back and like bring your war boss back to life, you can do it. And I'm like, you know what? I care more about the story of this Gretchen than I do about the story of my war boss at this point. Let's let it ride. And my Gretchen is now my war boss. So yeah, that was great fun.
Game 2.
Yeah,
the Imperial Guard.
Yeah, went up against the Imperial Guard. So, and again, this is where I really started to see, oh, hang on, I just don't have enough anti-tank. So this one was, the Imperial Guard had taken hold, and I had engaged and destroy. So they were trying to take a spot in the middle of the battlefield. And I was just trying to kill as many of them as I could. So basically that just meant we were sort of all rushing towards the middle, and I was trying to destroy him, keep him off that point, try and get as many grots as possible onto the taken hold point to deny it to him. And so it was just sort of this massacre in the middle. Big standout moment for this game was the Demolisher tank. So, he had this great big Demolisher that he just plonked in the middle of the battlefield right at the start. I fired everything I had at it. Every single las cannon just bounced. I hit it with, I think, like 3 las cannon hits in the first round.
That tracks from memory. They were impossible to get rid of.
Like the turret, which I hit twice, sadly, the turret has like an armor 24. Like, it's just ridiculous. Like, it is so hard to destroy. And I just hammered it with everything I had. And yeah, just didn't make a scratch on it, which was absolutely, devastating, if you'll forgive the pun. But then it came to his turn.
Nice, thank you.
Yeah, it came to his turn, and like he just fires everything he has. So it has the battle cannon or the demolisher cannon, and then a couple of heavy plasma guns, which he was firing on full power, which are very destructive. And battle cannon misses. First heavy plasma misses. They scatter off. Don't hit me. The second heavy plasma fires, misses, misfires, blows up, causes
Love
a
it.
flashback into the hull of the demolisher, and the whole thing just blows up. And
If that's not the most secondhand thing I've ever heard, that's
it was
amazing.
just incredible. Like, this thing seemed impervious. I was like, I've lost this game. I cannot deal with this demolisher. And then the thing just implodes. It was absolutely beautiful. Joel still took the game. He did manage to get the take and hold in the final round of the mission, and sort of block my advance with his Ogren. But yeah, it was a really fun game.
Nice. Game 3.
So game 3. Yeah, so I was facing off against Gareth's Blood Angels. So he had Engage and Destroy, so just kill mission, and I had Witch Hunt, which he had a Psyker, so that was fine. So right at the start of the game, he positioned a scout squad like right in the middle of the battlefield in this bunker. There was smack bang in the middle. Everything else was in hiding. So like all I could see was this scout squad, and like basically just spent my first turn absolutely annihilating them, which was good fun. He had this librarian that was only a level 3, but proved to be really, really powerful, with some really scary psychic powers. There was probably the standout moment in this game was, so this is Witch Hunt, right? So like my whole mission is to kill this psyker, and he used ultimate force on a power, and I just happen to have demonic attack at the same time, which is like potentially an insta-kill against a psyker. And because he used ultimate force, it counts as 3 force cards, which meant that a 4-up, I think it was, would kill him instantly if he rolled a 4-up. And like, again, this is my mission objective, is killing this model. Sadly, he did not roll what I needed him to roll, and he won that coin flip, and ultimately the game. So this was the game that was cut short, sadly, due to the time constraints on us. So we didn't really get to finish it out, and we had to really quickly calculate points. But it was pretty clear by the end that he'd taken it. So, and then the next day, so the morning of the next day, we had a chance to face off again. So again, day 2 was going to be, so day 1 I got to play different players each time. Day 2 we knew we were going to face off against opponents we'd already faced off, and it was put to us, who do you want to play? And of course, none of us had finished our games the night before, so it was like, let's just re-rack and play the players that we faced off against the day before. So I faced off again against the Blood Angels. So Gareth had High Ground and I had Dawn Raid. So, it was my mission to get across the battlefield. And he had to take the high points in the battlefield. And look, I reckon this is the most fun game I play. I mean, look, they were all great games, but this one is probably the one that stands out for me the most. Just a lot of really exciting moments. He pushed up really heavily with his librarian, with a jump pack, and the librarian had Iron Arm and Teleport. And again, I didn't have much of a counter to psychics, and he just had this librarian that was like strength 10 that was blipping around the battlefield, and it can teleport into combat. So he just teleported behind my lines and moved from one thing to the next. You know, like killed off a heavy weapons squad, then teleported into one of my dreadnoughts and killed that, then teleported into my war boss behind my lines, which, you know, was scary. The saving grace was that I did manage to flank him with one of my dreads and use Overwatch to like prevent his land speeder from hitting it with a multi-melter. And he did have a multi. He did get one shot against it and he missed, which, you know, was probably what won the game for me. This is the one game I actually won. So he missed with the multi-melter, which allowed me to bring my Scorcher in to destroy his Land Raider. His Land Speeder, and I was able to move my Dread into his deployment zone. That battle between the Librarian and my War Boss went for a couple of turns, as I recall, and he managed to do me a couple of wounds, but my War Boss survived it, and you know, they were still fighting at the end of the battle. It was really good. Like it felt really close. That was a really fun game.
Nice. Well, that leaves the last game.
Yep. So last game,
here you are facing off against the dreaded Ultramarines again.
That's right. So started against them, finished against them. Look, I've got to say, I was exhausted by this point. I have not played that many games in a row for a long time. And look, the environment was loud and overwhelming, and I was really feeling spent. Still a really great game, but not my most tactically sound game, I will say. We both had assassins. So for the final mission, everyone had assassins. So we had to kill the enemy commander. And we decided, you know, gentleman's agreement, we were not going to play protectively of our commanders. You know, we decided to really get stuck in there. I almost got really lucky at the start by putting a bunch of heavy weapons on Overwatch and actually just happening to get a shot off against his commander and hit his commander with a las cannon, a heavy bolter, and a crack missile in his turn one. And
wow.
I did 4 wounds with the heavy bolter, which killed him outright. And then he played the saved strategy card and brought him straight back to life. But of course, I'd also hit it with a las cannon, which was a separate thing. So unfortunately, he did save that on his conversion field. And then I think the may have failed to wound or something like that. He walked it off unharmed. And you know, again, I just had that same problem I'd had in the first game of I couldn't take out his vehicles. I threw so much firepower, it felt like, into the vehicles and just couldn't do it. He managed to get his. I managed to use the Rhino to get a tactical squad right up into the building, right in the smack bang center. And I made this decision that I was just going to go all out and rush my War Boss right into it. Actually, charged into them, climbing up an obstacle, you know, with many negative modifiers for doing so. He got his commander up the other side of that building, and we had a final showdown in the center of the table in this building. His commander on one side, my War Boss on the other. Sadly, my War Boss did fall. It was a very close thing, but he had the superior numbers, and my War Boss did not walk out of there alive. And I think I single-handedly set the Braca chain, you know, bad guy war effort back a lot, because the points difference at the end of this game was hugely in his favor. I think it was 1 point to me and 17 to Matthew. So
Jesus.
Yeah, he annihilated me. But it was a great fun game, and I was really thrilled that we did get that final moment of my War Boss managed to take on his commander in the fortress in the middle of the table. It was really fun. So yeah, just great games all round.
Well, that takes us to the end. Now, I did mention that you were acknowledged for having an army of some
Look,
variety.
so
Is
I
now
didn't
the
actually know
time that we
that.
celebrate?
Yeah, I didn't know that you knew this actually. But yeah, so there were a number of awards. I mean, so again, to Dan, the organizers' credit, it wasn't like podium stuff. It wasn't. There was one award for the person who got the most points, which was Matthew. Which again, I feel like I was, not to take away from his. He's a very good player, but also I gave him a lot, a lot of points there at the end. So he took that one away. So there was a couple of other awards. There was a Judge's Choice Painting Award, which Gareth, the Blood Angel player, took away, which was well deserved. Again, they were just absolutely amazing to see. But I was lucky enough to get the Player's Choice Painting Award for my army. And I also got the Most Authentic Second Edition Award, Most Authentic Second Edition Army Award, which
Awesome.
I'm thrilled to have received it. I also feel like it could literally have gone to anywhere else there. I mean, Brendan's orcs being 3D printed were the only ones there that were not, like, everything else was authentically second edition, just really, it was lovely they chose me, but everyone was authentic, it could have gone to anyone. So yeah, now my army for every other video we do, or we will be referring it to it as the multi-award winning army that it is.
Well deserved. Well deserved.
But yeah, so really, really great. Yeah, a lot of fun. So couple of final reflections. As I said, I think next time I take a psyker, that felt like it was pretty obvious. I need more ways to deal with vehicles, because I just, I did not kill a single tank myself. The Demolisher was kind enough to blow itself up, but I didn't kill a single tank in any other game, or Dreadnought
That's
for that matter.
crazy. Having faced you with your orcs and feeling like my vehicles just died in droves.
Yeah, look,
That's
I might have been unlucky, but also, having said that, like, I passed so many Gretchen leadership tests. Maybe my dice were just rolling super low the whole time. I don't know,
there
but
you go. There you go.
yeah, so definitely need to figure that out. I the big standouts for me in my army were the Gretchen mobs. Those 20 strong mobs are such a tar pit. They're so hard to get rid of. They almost never broke, and they did such a good job of protecting everything else. Really, and they took out a few things on their own as well, which was lovely. I also found that I didn't really tool my war boss up for melee, but it's definitely the most fun I can have with him. It's just so much more fun when I get him into combat.
Yeah.
So I'll be aiming to do that. I'll be looking to find ways to do that more moving forward. But yeah. Oh, and I should mention also, I scored the lowest number of victory points in the event.
Ooh.
So I may have won some awards, but it was not for my performance on the battlefield.
Well, that last game may have contributed to that a little bit.
I think it would have been true either way, but yes, that certainly would not have helped.
No, it would not have helped.
But yeah, so, but all in all, like, wouldn't do it differently. It was a real blast, and certainly was not. The event was not about the score. I'm going to say that because I got the lowest score, so obviously it wasn't about that.
Yeah. Well, I have to say, man, it sounds like you had an absolute blast. Anything? I mean, obviously, it sounds like you would change, maybe put a psyker in your army, and maybe add some more AT assets. Any other big takeaways for things that, if you were going to recommend people going to play? I mean, it sounds like this event was just filled with people who, I mean, this is a game system that's been quote unquote dead for over 20 years. So it's not like people are going to be playing this for the ultimate competitive sheep stations. At least I hope not. So
Yeah, look, I mean, look, it's obvious, and I knew this going into it, but given how many games we were playing, like taking so many models was probably not the smartest idea. Look, my opponents were very well, very pleasant about it. Nobody complained about how long my movement phases were taking. But yeah, obviously, it would have been much snappier if I'd had a smaller army. But I painted 40 grots, and I was, come hell or high water, I was playing 40
I was playing
grots.
40 grots.
Yeah. So again, if I was recommending it to somebody else, I'd say, definitely think about maybe smaller army size with higher value models, but also I don't regret my decisions in that regard. Look, if I was building an army to play rather than to paint, yeah, look, there's so many different things that I would take. I'd take a more mobile army. There's all sorts of more destructive things that I could have had. And look, there's a bunch of stuff that I still want to paint. Obviously, I mean, so much stuff that I want to paint. But I think I'll probably, I don't know that it'll be fantastic, but I want to get some tractor cannons and so forth in there as well, which goes well with the Death Skull theme, and I think might be quite effective against vehicles too, which again was something I felt like I really struggled with. So yeah, look, I will be considering, for playability's sake, what I might add in that regard moving forward, but still, yeah, I regret nothing. I I made the choices that I made, and I stand by them.
And that's that. Take that. Yeah.
That's right.
Well, I know that there is a Sustained Fire event in Brisbane later this year.
Sold out already, unfortunately. So that's the August Sustained Fire event. So they're completely sold out. They said they're going to try and get a bigger venue for next year, but they're doing really well. So I think 30 players for that one.
Nice.
And for good reason. Those guys are going really strong. If people in Melbourne are interested in playing second, there's definitely some enthusiasm. We had, so Daniel, again, event organizer, did say that he'd had a lot of people reach out and say, oh, look, too late this year for me to participate in this, but I'd love to next year. We had so many people coming up to us during the event just saying, oh, I've been thinking about painting up a retro army and seeing this, now I'm going to do it. People saying that they want to give second a shot. So look, there's definitely some interest out there, but also it's kind of nice being a little niche thing as well in and of itself. But I will definitely be looking to play more second in the near future. Yeah, had such a blast, and yeah, also, if you haven't done so already, check out the Bracket Chain website,
Right.
and they are putting up all these battle reports, and it's just so much good stuff. There's a full write-up of Only War as well, this event, on there too, from Matthew's perspective, I think.
Oh yeah, from Matthew, that's right. I know, I saw it. Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, things he got from other people as well, I think. But yeah, it's he'd be the one who was informing that, I think. Yeah, really great, and big thanks to Dan, Daniel Silver, who ran this event. Really was really excited to see a second edition event in Melbourne, and he also, for those of you who saw the video version of this, he provided some of the photos as well. So
thank you, Dan.
Great of him.
Made our life a lot easier to talk about these things.
That's right.
You and I might have to run a little thing later this year, John.
Maybe. I'm always up for more second.
Well, Gale Force 9, one of my favorite companies to make terrain, because they make the Battlefield in the Box range, has recently, and yes, I know they have a bunch of new stuff that's about to drop, including a bunch of Star Wars Legion stuff that you could use for science fiction gaming. But they have taken one of their classic terrain lines, which was sort of a green Space Marine style of buildings from the the Dawn of War game, and they've repainted them in Space Wolf colors. And I may have found them for 30 to 35% off. And so I may now have 2 tables of 40K style terrain, but whoops, that happened. But we can talk about those another day. Speaking of things we do need to talk about, John, do you have any feelings about the Badab conflict? Because I feel like this is something we need to talk about.
I think we're running pretty long at the moment, but I think a Badab war is definitely something that we could talk about.
Because our good friends from the Third-a-Palooza crew, i.e. Nick Beattie and friends, have put together an event later this year. It's been announced in November near Melbourne in Geelong, called Badab, the First Battle of Sagan. And those boys have done an unbelievable job of heavy lifting. Not only for a couple of years ago when they did the Third-a-Palooza did they come up with the 3.5 Warhammer 40K 3rd edition 0.5 rulebook. They took all of the FAQs and did the good Lord's work and jammed it all into one book. And so now it's one concise book, which is fantastic. But they also have this year outdone themselves by taking all of the awesome lore from the Badab conflict, from all the way back in those Rogue Trader 40K, Rogue Trader era White Dwarf articles for 40K. And they've also taken some of the info from the Imperial Armor and other more contemporary and everything in between and jammed it together to create Codex Badab. We need to talk about that. I am going to talk to the authors on Cast Dice coming up very soon. But wow. This is one of the best fan-driven projects I have literally ever seen in my life. And I've been gaming my whole life. This is amazing. I'm getting on board. I'm painting another Space Marine army. Are you going
to paint them in Rogue Trader Badab War colors? Because some of those color schemes are something else. I recommend people look up the original Rogue Trader Badab War color schemes, because there are some absolute nightmares to paint in there.
So I'm going to do terrible things, and I'm going to hold up a photo to a camera. So the Minotaurs would be what I would want. I was one of the ones that I would love to do more than anything. However, painting yellow and bright red stripes at a diagonal angle down power armor is my idea of the devil. So, however, there is a more contemporary Minotaurs theme or a scheme that looks amazing.
So much more boring. Come on, Brad.
I have a bunch of the new Mark II Space Marine armor, and I have concocted a way of using the armor plates to do the stripes of red and gold. My only concern is that people will think they're the Ronald McDonald chapter. It's grim. So, and not grimdark, just grim. So we need to work on that. However, I may go with the more contemporary brass theme, because 3rd edition has much larger armies, and this event is using army sizes of 1,000 or 2,000 points. And being a jerk, I am, of course, interested in 2,000 points. So, ouch. Anyway, on that note, I'm excited about showing you guys the Space Marines I've been painting, because I've been painting a lot of them. And I know I'm very excited to talk about John's Dreadnoughts. So I think we'll have to come back sooner rather than later, John. And I know we've been fairly regular, but I think we might need to sneak another couple little ones in to talk about some of this painting progress. What do you say?
Sounds good to me. Let's do it.
Right on. Friends, thank you very much, as always, for watching and listening. If you have not found Cast Dice, the podcast, which is the network that this video cast appears on. Please do look for it on your favorite podcatcher, be it Spotify, which I know a lot of people are using now. However, it is also, you can find it in Apple Podcasts or any of your other favorite podcasts, whatever. If you can't find it, go to Facebook. Please message the page and I can send you a link so you can find these things. And as always, thank you for listening. Until next time, guys, stay safe out there. Good night.